We took a basic Chevrolet V8 and designed a four-cylinder that was in a V configuration using basically standard parts. And then we continued on, and of course, we make everything in our plant. We make the block, the rods, the crank, the heads, the valve covers, the whole thing. And what it's allowed them to do is, of course, keep the balance of the chassis, which was so famous with Volkswagen. The horsepower-wise, total horsepower, I don't think that we have any more, any less than anybody else, but what we do have is the flattest and the highest torque curve of anybody. And in midget racing, as you see here tonight at the Chili Bowl, you've got a problem with short racetracks. Guys get a little sideways into a corner, and you got to be able to drill the throttle and get out of there and keep your position. And the V4, with the weight advantage, chassis advantage, which is the biggest thing, and the flat torque curve, they can do that. And the inline engines have a problem with that because most of the torque curves are very peaky.
A Girty engine was basically developed off the old Iron Duke Pontiac type of engine. It's an inline four-cylinder. What we did differently is we treated it like a V8 as much as we could. We're working on horsepower daily. What you need is reliable horsepower. You can make the big numbers, and if it doesn't last 30 laps, you don't do anything.
And the total number of chassis where you put those power plants is now around 20 and can only be estimated. Here is George Wilkins explaining that situation.
Building midget chassis for a living has been around for quite some time. In fact, in the late 40s and early 50s, if you didn't have a Curtis Craft, which was built by Frank Curtis, you were basically out to lunch. Today, building midgets is big business. And earlier, we talked to some of these builders. When you build a chassis, do you just build a generic chassis, or do you rely on the client to come in and tell you exactly what they want?
We kind of listen to the customer, and they want something special. But like I said, our car is a production-run car, and it's very close. We have Carl Kinzer that does a lot of testing for us, so usually whatever he wants to do, we do for him, and everybody else goes along with it.
From a business perspective, how do you get your leads, for example, or do they just come to you because you're a nice guy?
Well, you know the old saying, you win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and that's been the whole key. The faster you go, and we keep everything as simple as we can, where we can work with everybody throughout the country on the phone and give them the setups. And our cars are real basic, simple, try to stay real online with everything so we can help everybody out. And we service a lot of races. I probably go to 100 to 150 races a year and stay on top of it. And when you're on top of it, you can relate to other people a lot. And our cars, the way we have the spuds put in the frames and adjustments, I can just tell everybody exactly where they're going.
John, what persuaded you to get into the midget building business?
Well, I always raced midgets myself for like 14 years, and I could never really get what I wanted. And I learned the good things and the bad things. And I just, when I came to live in this country, I was just approached by different people to build cars. And when I did, we had pretty good success with them straight off the bat. I think it's really competitive, but we just try and build a nice car, you know. I mean, people have been mass-producing the last few years that I've lived here. They mass-produced them, and which is good. It's good for the guys because you can always buy a lot of parts and that for them. But the quality of them sort of gone down. What we try to do is get the quality back in our work and not just pump them out the door, you know. And we try and give a guy what he wants, and it's just worked out good for us.
As the preliminaries continue on the racetrack, we're going to go to Larry Newberg. He's going to tell us about a man who not only gave financially, but gave with all his heart to the sport of auto racing, and especially to this event.
One of the most prominent non-competitive open-wheel personalities of the past 2 years in motor racing has been J.W. Hunt from Plant City, Florida. Now, J.W. was identified with many events around the world of racing every year, but perhaps none more so than the annual basketball charity event at the Chili Bowl. It is both sad, but perhaps also tremendously fitting that J.W. passed away during the running of the 1994 Chili Bowl. One of his most beloved and loyal patrons of the past 10, 15 years has been Arizona's Ron Schumann. And Ron, you know, we always talk when you lose a race driver on the track that this guy will be tough to replace. Well, this guy, a non-driver, will be impossible to replace.
Well, there's no other J.W. Hunt. Never will be, never can be. He, he pioneered the backing of fan support to the drivers. He gives himself, like, to the charity events and PIR every year. He gives ungodly amount of money. I was saddened Thursday night, when I heard that he passed away, but it really hit me Friday night when I won the race and he wasn't there. That was when it was tough. you lose somebody, you know, you're saddened, but when you miss him, you know, he should have been there with us. You know, he'd have liked to have been there with us, and I'm sure in one way he was. And I don't think there'll ever be a car that I run without a Strawberry on him. He really meant a lot to us.
JW is a great person. Yeah, I've known him for probably about 5 years now. You know, he's helped me out a little bit in the past couple of years. And, you know, not just me. He helped out all of racing. You know, everywhere he went, he did something. He gave back to the racers. He always put in, made the purse larger, and he helped some of the less fortunate people that don't have rides or something like that get rides. And, you know, it's going to be a great loss.
JW has helped so many people, promoters, drivers. I mean, when he walks in the pit area and goes to a tire truck and tells them guys to let everybody come get a right rear tire and send me the bill. You know, there's just not people like that around anymore.
The championship lineup is set. The combatants assemble on the starting grid.
PJ, it's been 2 years since you've been back in a midget. How strong do you feel about this race?
Well, you know, you want to win. If you're going to be in a race car and you're going to come out here, you want to race and you want to win. And, you know, it's just, you know, we've been working real hard trying to get the car right. They tore the track up right here before the main event, and it's a big guess. So, you know, we'll just have to see how everybody guesses.
You know, there's a real good chance you're going to be racing your brother for the win. How do you feel about that?
We've done it before, so, you know, if there's anybody I'd like to race at, I'd love to run side by side with him for the lead.
This is Tommy Estes, the very last man to make this race in a very good car that under Leland McFadden could have won last year. Stevie Kinser, the king of the Outlaws. He doesn't race midgets very often, but he loves them when he drives them.
Paige, you're starting on the front row. Last year you won Belleville. Does this race mean any more than Belleville, or is it equally as special?
This race is just as important as Belleville is. Both of them are, for us, it's like Daytona 500 of midget racing, and, you know, we're going to do the best job we can and try to keep the American racing car up front.
You know, when it comes down to the wire, it may be between you and your brother PJ.
Well, that's possible, and that's the way I'd like to see it. You know, PJ and I get along really well, and, you know, if we can keep it in the family, that's the best area.
Another driver expected to do well is hometowner Andy Hillenberg. He's had a great preliminary. Can he break that chain of bad luck? You're looking at Scott Hatton, the 1988 winner, who ran right down in the bottom and protected his position. Here's Andy.
Andy Hillenberg, you're obviously the local favorite. Is this race a little more special to you than the others?
Oh, it's special just because, you know, right here at home, I like that part of it. And don't get to run a midget very often, so, you know, that kind of makes it exciting, and I'm just having a good time tonight.
It's the gathering of the clans. Of the 120 entries, we're down to just 20 finalists for the 1994 Chili Bowl Championship.